I am honored and super psyched to have Professor Bill Aulet with me here. But before we go on and have you introduce yourself, can I just show some photos? Don't be too nervous because the photos are not too scandalous. This is actually Bill and myself, 10-year younger versions.
You look the same. You look the same.
You do too, sir.
No, I don't.
It was a book signing ceremony at the world's largest women's university back then in Seoul, South Korea. And the Korean party, they were so honored that they rolled out the red carpet and 10 bodyguards followed him, as well as 10 black sedan. I thought he was a presidential delegate from the White House. And after a year, we were able to eventually host MIT's very first entrepreneurship bootcamp overseas in Seoul, South Korea. We had about 80 students from 30 countries. And some of these people were actually from war-torn countries like Syria and Afghanistan. So the imprint that you left was profoundly deep. Not just with the workbook and the framework, of course, remarkable, but I think it was really the vision, right? The audacity, the courage, and the inspiration that was really powerful, really, for myself as well as everyone else. So on behalf of all the entrepreneurs out there that are dreaming and that are hitting it hard, I want to thank you very much, Bill.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I almost feel like I'm legitimate. Like MIT didn't make a mistake. And don't tell them. But anyway, I want to go back to this. This was amazing what Rhie organized over a boot camp. We literally had people who traveled days by foot from Afghanistan, from the one was in Africa. They traveled by foot to get to this boot camp. And then they sent emails about how it changed their lives. And one said, for the first time in my life, I see a path to economic freedom. And it was one of the most moving things I've ever done. And just kind of like an interesting side note, I don't know if you remember, there was in this boot camp, there was a person named Rhie Lim, and he was like, I've been working on a business and I don't quite know what to do. I want to do educational work using media to kind of help people learn, how to speak American. We call it American here, not English. He was this really interesting guy, and we helped him. And Ryan went on and he started a company called Pinkfong. And that is the video called Baby Shark. How many of you have heard Baby Shark? Yeah, you can never forget it. If you haven't heard it, don't listen to it. You will never get it out of your head. And so you can thank Rhie for that. So it's a pleasure to be here. And am I the most exciting person you've ever interviewed?
I think so.
That is not true. She's interviewed so many people.
Well, the second most interesting person, I guess, was Warren Buffett, but you do come above him. So, well, Bill, I want to just open up and how do you relentlessly and continuously keep raising the bar in the world of entrepreneurship education?
One of my favorite quotes is Gabriel Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude, said, people don't stop playing because they get old. They get old because they stop playing. And people don't stop entrepreneuring because they get old. They get old because they stop entrepreneuring. You like that? How's that a quotable quote? Let's see that up on the Instagrammer. And I look at my friends and I just love it. I mean, how could you not get excited to see what, these two undergraduate from MIT and a guy who was from Harvard Law School, they started a class in our company called Clarity. And they've been working and working and working for 8 years, and they went through Delta V and they went through all this, and they've been living together out. They went through Y Combinator, they've been living together, and they called me up the other day and they said, we just raised $70 million, $70 million, and we've been able to take some money off the table, and we are now, we're set, and we're going to give back to the entrepreneurial community. If you can't get excited about that, as a friend of mine said, people who, if you make money and you go play golf, you didn't really love the game. The game of entrepreneurship. And I just love the game of entrepreneurship. And if you love it, you keep playing it and you stay young.
So Bill is a strong believer that all humans on this earth can actually be successful entrepreneurs. So how do you actually believe in that? Like, give us something to believe in.
I kind of thought about this, and then I was in Vietnam, and I was in North Vietnam, and I got up early in the morning, and I went out, and everybody was buzzing around on the streets. Like, I was like, holy cow, what's going on? Everybody was just out on the streets doing things. They were trading things, they were moving things around, they were making things. And it kind of dawned on me, like, of course human beings are entrepreneurial. They wouldn't have survived if they weren't entrepreneurial. But if you had a choice between dying or making something for someone or providing a service for someone or trading something, of course you'd do that. And since the beginning of time, no one back in the Roman days laid on this sidewalk saying, I'm going to die unless I get on LinkedIn to get a job at a big company. They just made stuff. They traded stuff. So human beings are inherently entrepreneurial. And it has only been since the Industrial Revolution that we have thought, well, we need to get a job in a big company. We have created our own jobs since the beginning of time. And it's only since the Industrial Revolution and we've had this economic prosperity that we don't believe, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur. I guarantee you, throw you out there, you're going to be an entrepreneur if you have to be.
And Bill, you have this updated and expanded Disciplined Entrepreneurship book out. It's been about, I think, more than 10 years since the first version came out. So what do you think has drastically changed in the startup landscape, and how does that actually affect teams and founder qualities or founder profiles?
The bar for entrepreneurship has gone up dramatically. I think everyone here has written a paper or something, and then you look at it years later and you thought, oh my, that paper was so brilliant. How could I have thought that was so brilliant? And I went back and I started looking at this book again, and I was like, I have to rewrite it because everything has moved forward. Every single thing has changed. If you were a good entrepreneur 10 years ago, that bar has raised. You're not going to be good. Getting product market fit was really what the first book was all about. It was really, how do you get product market fit? That's table stakes today, ladies and gentlemen. How do you build a product doing lean startup? That's table stakes. Today, the game is you have to do both those things, and you have to do channel market fit. The game has turned to, how do you get the customer to buy the product and do so in a cost-effective way? Let me give you an example. Products are becoming commoditized. It's very clear. What's going up is seed funding. And simultaneously, while seed funding is going up, the cost of doing a startup is going down. So it's very easy to bring new products out. The question is, can you get customers for your new product? 10 years ago, you wanted to start an e-commerce company. It would cost you millions of dollars. You had to go out and raise money. You had to get servers. You had to hire people. You had to get a whole bunch of software. You had to get people together, hire managers, and do all that. You go on Shopify, you could start an e-commerce company tonight. But for those of you who don't know, just to do an e-commerce company, what used to cost millions of dollars, you can do an e-commerce company like that. So ideas and getting products to market are happening really quickly. The question is, can you get customers, and can you maintain those customers? Clubhouse came and went because it's easy to make a Clubhouse product. The question is, how do you get customers? How do you keep customers? And the ultimate competitive advantage is happy customers, like owning those customers. And the Clubhouse and Groupon, they come and go. But can you build a sustainable company like a HubSpot, Okta? That requires you to understand cost of customer acquisition, lifetime value, customer success, and all those things. So one, the biggest change has been, product market fit. You got to do that. You got to figure out who your customer is. You got to do primary market research. You got to be able to build things quickly. But now the game has switched to, can you acquire customers in a cost-effective way using agile techniques as opposed to the old ways? The old ways was, we got product market fit, go hire a salesperson. Today, you got product market fit, it might be much better for you to do PLG, product-led growth. It might be better for you to just not hire a salesperson and set up a customer success group. It might be better to just do channel sales or other things. We have a class now at MIT on entrepreneurial sales which is taught by 4 engineers. No more like slick, Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. Sales is now a systematic process as to how do you acquire customers. And if you're doing it the old way of demo dining and, dancing or whatever, discount, it isn't going to work. You've got to do it in a systematic way where you're monitoring it. What's your cost of customer acquisition? What's your LTV? Are you using the right channels? And do you use a mix of them? The last thing, of course, is AI, how AI is affecting the whole entrepreneurial process. And if you haven't seen the video, we have a new tool called Orbit, which you can go in and the 24 steps and you can say, all right, I got this idea. And I could, I'm not going to do it here right now, but I could show you how you build a business plan in less than an hour, go through all the 24 steps. Just give me a new idea, boom. How do we do market segmentation? If you didn't know, there's a video there, you can click on it, then it generates your market segmentation. All right, which ones do you like? Further segment it using the tool. Then you get a beachhead market. How do we do that? You can adjust it and go through, and you can go through the whole thing.
MIT's whole motto, and yours specifically, is also disciplined entrepreneurship, evidence-based entrepreneurship education, as well as open source. So I think you're on the right track, right?
Yes, and that's what we're talking about. How would we open source this? How would we get it out there while maintaining the quality of it? Because it's not just going into ChatGPT. You have to structure things in a certain way.
And because actually we had registrants ask questions beforehand, and I think a big chunk of that was involving AI. So just to kind of hammer on the topic of AI a little bit further, how has AI changed disciplined entrepreneurship? I'm assuming that PMR is maybe easier because you can collect data of customers faster, and it's effective. So
AI changes it. The way that we think of Orbit is, imagine if you had 3 MIT sophomores and they were super, super smart sitting right next to you. And as you're going through your plan, you could ask them any question and they would just instantly go out there and collect all this information and bring it back to you. It basically allows you to do secondary market research very, very quickly and iterate on that. What it does not do, it is an assistant. It does not do primary market research. So it makes it even more important that you understand how do you go out and understand customer needs that are not already out there. A large language model is just doing what's already known. When you're an entrepreneur, you've got to do primary market research. You've got to do ethnographic research. You've got to ask those questions. You've got to test hypotheses that other people haven't tested before. You've got to build a team. You've got to make sure that team is aligned. So a lot of the intangible stuff, Orbit is an AI assistant. It is not, entrepreneurship is not a science. It never will be. It's an assistant to help you do secondary market research at a astronomically faster rate. It puts even more emphasis on doing good primary market research, doing the team building stuff, doing more of the kind of soft skills of entrepreneurship.
So the good human stuff needs to stay human, and you need to really take the time to do that thoroughly, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. But how do I know you're a human?
There is certainly some magic here in Kendall.
Absolutely.
And what do you think has really changed in Kendall over the last 10 years? And what do you think people can really capitalize on?
I was just in Belgrade, Serbia 3 weeks ago, and they are going to produce 2,000 new PhDs in biotech because they want to recreate Kendall Square. And this is our Ministry of Science and Technology. She's great. And then they realized, we're going to have all these patents, but patents don't make companies. You need entrepreneurs to commercialize those patents to make companies. And the real magic here in Kendall Square goes back to the Rad Lab at MIT. It is the mix of research and commercialize. It's entrepreneurs. It's like we always say, innovation is something that makes money, has impact in the world. Innovation is something that's new to the world. What's the definition of innovation? Innovation equals invention, which means it's new to the world. But invention alone does not make it innovation because invention costs you money. A patent will cost you $200,000. But innovation makes you money. So what's missing from this equation is the commercialization process as to how do you take a patent and figure out who will benefit from this in the world. And that is the core of the entrepreneurial process. But if you just have entrepreneurs without invention, you don't have innovation. If either is zero. And so the magic at Kendall Square is we've got great invention and we have great commercialization. And so in Serbia, they're trying to recreate it. And they're like, oh, it's all about patents. And ironically, that's how you end up with Nikola Tesla, who dies penniless and not having an impact on the world, whereas Thomas Edison had less invention, but he knew how to commercialize. And so the magic of Kendall Square is it combines invention and commercialization. What's happened over the past 10 years has been, I believe, there's more respect for entrepreneurs than there's ever been. Entrepreneurs is now seen as a respectful field as to a bunch of rabble-rousers. A true story, my mother, God bless her soul, never understood what an entrepreneur was. She thought I was unemployed. She go, why don't you go back and get that job at IBM? You'll be so good at it. and I think society has come to the point where young people see entrepreneurship as a viable, respectable field to go after. I think what we're missing is entrepreneurship is not being taught in a systematic way, that where there is a corpus of knowledge that is rigorous and evidence-based, and that's what we're focused on. If I'm really proud over the past year, this right here is the thing I might be the most proud about. This is a 10-year longitudinal study that shows with evidence what we do works and what doesn't work. And people don't do that. Most of the time, they just tell stories. What's the percent of entrepreneurs you think they're in business 5 years later? Anybody want to guess? 5 years after they've started, they came up with a new idea and they started, and then they go. How many are in business 5 years later? 5%. Wow. Our study shows that after they go through our program, 69% of them are still in business 5 years later. And this is a study over 10 years with over almost 700 participants in it. And guess what? These are students that started from 0 miles per hour. They didn't have an idea. They came to MIT, or they might have had a technology. They have raised $3 billion. So entrepreneurship can be taught. It should be taught in a systematic way. Mm-hmm. And I feel that we're not doing that writ large. We're trying to lead the field. MIT invented the field of chemical engineering. Before MIT did that, there was no systematic, rigorous way to teach chemical engineering. And now hundreds of schools do that. That would be my goal before I go to the big basketball court in the sky, is that we would create a rigorous field of entrepreneurship that's evidence-based, where when stuff works, whether it's invented at Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Kalamazoo, it goes into a corpus body of knowledge that is available to everybody. How many of them are in for profiteering? How many are cryptocurrency? How many are dating apps? 89% of the companies that come out of ours are directly aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. If you're from MIT, you should be damn proud of that, because that's what we're about. We're addressing the world's greatest challenges, not doing, some cryptocurrency company like FTX that kind of rips people off. Oh, he did go to MIT, sorry. Here's one. What percent of the CEOs of our companies in 2002 do you think were female? 55%. 55%. And women today, this isn't true of every woman, women generally are outperforming men as CEOs, because men more tend to think of the Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, tech bro, testosterone model. Data bears out that that is not the case. Entrepreneurship is a team sport, and you need to build a strong team. And when you have someone like that, those are the exceptions. I've been entrepreneur 3 times. The first time, the company is in deep, deep stealth mode. Do you know what that means? It failed, right? But I learned a ton in that first one. The second one, it's like a bicycle. It looked really great. We got up, we raised $33 million back when that was a huge deal. And we had installed around the world, and I was up on the bicycle, and it was like, look at this, I'm riding the bicycle, and it was like, look at this, and everyone had me give talks, and I didn't know how to stop on the bicycle. And so it looks successful. It's infinitely more successful than the first one, because anything divided by 0 is infinity. But it still wasn't nearly as good as the third one. The third company, we went from 50 million to $500 million in 2.5 years. And I worked less hard. That was back when that was a huge number. That was less hard than either of the first two by like an order of magnitude. Because by the third time, like you think riding a bicycle, all of a sudden you know, oh, here's the things that matter. Here's the things that don't matter. Here's how you have a board. We need to, it's okay if the salesperson makes more money than the CEO. Here's how you split up equity. The logic of it is absolutely compelling to me. And Ed Roberts, God rest his soul, showed that the more times you're an entrepreneur, the more likely you are to be successful and the odds go up. This is true for deep tech as things getting shorter and shorter. You've got a real fundamental change going on here. Like, see, the entrepreneurship grew up in the IT industry, and it was driven first by one law. That was Moore's law. The power of the chip will essentially double every 18 months, and so that means that the computer you have, the phone you have, you're gonna swap out within 3 years, probably less than that. So the computer industry was built off Moore's law to begin with. And so this is exponential growth. It's technically not a law, but that's what it's built off. So that means that you're going to have to change up your install base every. So VC comes along, venture capital says, we like this, and we're going to set up a fund that's 5 years and 10 years. So we invest for 5 years and 10, and that's perfect when you go that quickly, right? And then software comes along, and you have Metcalfe's law, and that's even more profitable. And so entrepreneurship takes off even more because you've got Moore's law, then you've got Metcalfe's law on top of that, which means the power of the network increases exponentially as the number of nodes on it. So you've got these powerful forces that are forcing things to go very, very quickly. Now, when you go to things like energy, it's different. It's fundamentally different. And this is why the venture capital model does not work for energy, because there's no Moore's law, there's no Metcalfe's law. So, well, there is the solar. Solar was improving. That's only one part of it. Generally, in energy, it's very capital intensive, and when you look at innovations, they take decades to roll out. Like horizontal drilling took 30 years to roll out. Why is that? Because you're not going to disintermediate. You're not going to recreate the grid. You're not going to recreate pipelines. That's a multi-billion-dollar thing. So as you go to different industries, you have to understand what the makeup of it is. But still, even in these areas, society's changing so rapidly and people are pushing for these things that in every industry, things are shortening. And entrepreneurs are becoming better at this to be able to handle it. Used to be the great entrepreneur, they'd come through Boston or they'd come through Silicon Valley. Not true anymore. There are great entrepreneurs everywhere. This has become a global sport. You're able to do it. The stuff is open source, you can do it. So you can change around a region much faster than you used to. And it's easier to catch up than it used to be. We always, like when we first started, you say you got to have a hacker and you've got to have a hustler. You got to have someone who can go out and get customers. You got to have someone who can write the code and build the product. In today's world, you have to have a hacker, a hustler, but you also have to have a hipster in the sense that you have to understand the user experience. These are like different skill sets. But when you're in regulatory and fintech or energy or healthcare, you need a policy person as well. You kind of need a wonk on your team too to understand those issues, because you've got 4 dimensions of complexity here. You got to get customers, you got to build the product, you've got to kind of have a good user interface, and you have to understand the policy ramifications. So policy and regulatory stuff is very important. And even in our climate class, teams have to have someone who's got tech expertise, they've got to have business expertise, and they've got to have policy expertise.
I want everyone to give a warm round of hands to the one and only Bill Aulet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.